November 2021. Cristiano Ronaldo posts a tribute on Instagram to Michael Carrick. He calls him a class act and predicts he could become a great coach. Everyone dismissed it as polite PR, standard social media courtesy. But 5 years later, that post looks like prophecy, because Michael Carrick just saved Manchester United from complete collapse. And he did it using the exact principles Ronaldo saw back in 2021. This isn't a story about tactics, it's a story about understanding players, about knowing when to adapt the system instead of forcing players to adapt to it. By the end of this video, you'll understand why Ronaldo was right, why Amorim's revolution failed, and why Carrick's return validates everything we thought we knew about player management. But first, subscribe to Cyberboot right now, because this deep dive is going to change how you see modern football management. Let's expose the truth behind Carrick's resurrection. The story begins in November 2021. Manchester United were in crisis. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer had just been sacked. The squad was fractured. Results were terrible. And into that chaos stepped Michael Carrick as caretaker manager. 3 games, that's all he had. And the fixture list? Brutal. Villarreal away, Chelsea away, Arsenal at home. These weren't easy matches. These were the kind of fixtures that expose every weakness a team has. But Carrick went unbeaten. 2 wins, 1 draw. And more importantly, he did something that caught Ronaldo's attention. He benched him. Against Chelsea, Carrick prioritized a high-pressing system, and that system required younger, more mobile players. So he left Ronaldo on the bench, not out of disrespect, not because Ronaldo wasn't good enough, but because the tactical plan required something different, and it worked. United got a 1-1 draw at Stamford Bridge against the reigning European champions. Ronaldo respected that decision because it earned a result. Under Carrick in those 3 games, Ronaldo scored 3 goals, 1 against Villarreal, 2 against Arsenal. But more than the goals, Ronaldo saw something in Carrick's management style, the ability to make difficult decisions, the tactical intelligence to adapt to different opponents, the respect he commanded from players. And when Carrick left after just 3 games, Ronaldo posted that tribute. At the time, it seemed like nothing, just polite words. But 5 years later, we're about to discover that Ronaldo saw something nobody else did. Fast forward to 2026. Manchester United had fallen into complete disarray under Ruben Amorim. Now, Amorim isn't a bad manager, far from it. He famously led Sporting CP to their first league title in 19 years in the 2020-21 season. He's tactically intelligent, he understands modern football, but he's what we call a system manager. He has a philosophy, a formation he believes in, a way of playing that he refuses to compromise on, and that system is the 3-4-3. In Portugal, it worked brilliantly. Sporting dominated domestically. They looked progressive, modern, aggressive. But at Manchester United, it was catastrophic. Why? Because systems don't win matches, players do. And United's players simply don't fit a 3-4-3. Let's start with Bruno Fernandes. Bruno is a creative number 10. His greatest asset is risk-taking passes. Defense splitting through balls, moments of individual brilliance. He needs freedom. He needs to operate between the lines. He needs to receive the ball facing the goal, not with his back to it. But in Amorim's 3-4-3, Bruno was forced into rigid pressing zones or pushed into deeper midfield battles. His greatest strength, his creativity, was completely neutralized. He wasn't playing like Bruno Fernandes anymore, he was playing like a system component. And then there's Casemiro. By 2026, Casemiro is 33 or 34 years old. He's still a brilliant defensive midfielder. His reading of the game is world class. His positioning is elite, but he's lost a step. He doesn't have the mobility he had at Real Madrid. And in a 3-4-3, the 2-man midfield has to cover vast spaces, especially during transitions. Casemiro was constantly exposed, constantly isolated, constantly overwhelmed. The system demanded athleticism he no longer possessed, and Amorim refused to adapt. After a draw with Leeds and a Carabao Cup exit, the board made the decision. Amorim was sacked, and Manchester United turned to the one man who had already proven he could stabilize them, Michael Carrick. Now let me ask you, do you think managers should stick to their philosophy no matter what? Or should they adapt to the players they have? Drop your answer in the comments, because this is the fundamental debate in modern football. But why Carrick? Because between 2022 and 2024, Michael Carrick had proven something remarkable at Middlesbrough. When he took over in October 2022, Middlesbrough were in serious trouble. 21st in the championship, in the relegation zone, heading toward League One. The club was in crisis. Fans were panicking, players had lost confidence, and Carrick walked into that environment and transformed it. By the end of that same season, Middlesbrough finished 4th, the playoffs. From relegation zone to playoff contention in one season, that's not luck, that's not just motivation, that's systematic improvement. But the most impressive part? The way he transformed individual players. Let's talk about Chuba Akpom. Akpom had been a journeyman striker, talented but inconsistent. Couldn't find his best position, struggled to produce consistently. Carrick looked at him and saw something different. He moved Akpom into a specialized number 10 role, not a traditional striker, not a wide forward. A number 10 with freedom to drift, to link play, to arrive late in the box, and Akpom exploded. 29 goals in all competitions. Championship player of the season, from struggling journeyman to one of the best players in the league. This is Carrick's superpower, player transformation. He doesn't try to force players into systems that don't suit them. He identifies what each player does best, and he builds a system that maximizes those strengths. At Middlesbrough, he proved he could do this at the championship level, and Manchester United were betting he could do it at the Premier League level. But there was one more piece of evidence that convinced them: the 2021 stint. 3 games, unbeaten, against a top opposition. Carrick had already managed United before, and he'd succeeded. The question was, could he do it again? When Michael Carrick returned to Manchester United, he didn't arrive with grand visions. He didn't promise a revolution. He didn't talk about implementing a new philosophy. He acted as a mechanic. He looked at the squad. He identified the problem, and he fixed it. The solution? The 4-2-3-1. Now, the 4-2-3-1 isn't revolutionary. It's not sexy. It's not going to win tactical innovation awards. But it's exactly what United's squad needed, because it provides structural sanity. The double pivot, 2 defensive midfielders, meant Casemiro finally had a partner. Someone to share the defensive workload, someone to cover when he stepped up, someone to provide passing options when he had the ball. Casemiro wasn't isolated anymore. He wasn't exposed. He wasn't overwhelmed. He could play his natural game again. And Bruno? Bruno returned to the number 10 slot, his natural position, the position where he's most dangerous, receiving the ball, facing the goal, operating between the lines, making those defense-splitting passes. Everything that makes Bruno Fernandes world-class was unlocked again. This is what Carrick understood that Amorim didn't. You don't force world-class players into systems that don't suit them. You build systems that unlock their world-class abilities. The 4-2-3-1 isn't about Carrick imposing his philosophy. It's about Carrick removing the friction that was preventing United's players from performing. And the results were immediate. But here's the twist that changes everything about this story. Carrick didn't just implement one system and stick with it, because that would make him the same as Amorim, rigid, inflexible. Instead, Carrick showed something far more valuable: tactical adaptability. He adjusted his approach for every single opponent. Against Manchester City, he played one way. Against Arsenal, he played completely differently. Against Fulham, a different approach again. And against Tottenham, yet another variation. Same formation, same core principles, but different execution based on the opponent. This is what separates great managers from good ones. And over the next 4 matches, Carrick proved exactly why Ronaldo was right about him. The first test, Manchester City. And Carrick made a decision that shocked everyone. He accepted that Manchester United were inferior, not in talent, not in individual quality, but in terms of system cohesion and tactical execution. City under Guardiola are a machine. They dominate possession. They suffocate opponents. So Carrick didn't try to beat them at their own game. He set a low block, conceded 70% possession to City, and waited. The tactic was simple: absorb pressure, deny space behind the defense, force City to play in front of you. And when City made one mistake, one misplaced pass, one momentary lapse in concentration, United would explode on the counterattack. And that's exactly what happened. Bruno Fernandes finding Brian Mbeumo with vertical passing. Patrick Dorgu exploiting space on the transition. City managed just one shot on target the entire match. United won, not through possession, not through dominating the ball, through tactical intelligence and clinical execution. This was pragmatism at its finest. The second test, Arsenal away. And this match carried historical weight, because Manchester United had not won a Premier League game at the Emirates since December 2nd, 2017, the famous 3-1 victory under Jose Mourinho. Nearly a decade of failure at that stadium. And Carrick knew the psychological burden that carried, so he adapted again. Unlike the defensive approach against City, United showed more ambition against Arsenal. They pressed higher, they committed more bodies forward, but they also showed resilience. United conceded an own goal, Arsenal equalized. In previous seasons, United would have collapsed, heads would drop, confidence would evaporate. But under Carrick, they kept fighting. And Matthias Cunha delivered. A long-range winner, individual brilliance unlocked by confidence. This wasn't just a tactical victory, this was a psychological one. Carrick had convinced his players they could win at the Emirates, and they did. The third test, Fulham at home. And this match wasn't about tactics, it was about man management. Because Benjamin Sesko was a player in crisis, a $50 million signing, publicly criticized by pundits like Gary Neville. Under Amorim, he'd been isolated, struggling, zero confidence. Carrick could have dropped him, could have protected him by keeping him out of the spotlight, but he did the opposite. He trusted him. He kept playing him. He backed him publicly. And in the 94th minute, Sesko scored the winner. This wasn't just a goal. This was the rehabilitation of a major investment. This was a player's confidence being restored. This is what great man management looks like, knowing when to protect a player and when to trust them through adversity. The fourth test, Tottenham Hotspur. Spurs had been a bogey team for United, unbeaten in 8 matches against them, and Carrick delivered a 2-0 victory, total domination. And the milestone? Bruno Fernandes recorded his 200th goal involvement for Manchester United. For context, only legends like Wayne Rooney and Ryan Giggs occupy that statistical stratosphere at United. This wasn't just about winning anymore. This was about restoring identity, restoring belief, restoring standards. 4 games, 4 different tactical approaches, 4 victories. Now, let me ask you, is Carrick's adaptability more impressive than sticking to one philosophy? Or do you think consistency matters more? Comment below. I genuinely want to hear your take on this. So here's the truth about Michael Carrick's return. The resurgence wasn't magic. It wasn't luck. It was the removal of friction. Ruben Amorim fought against his squad's nature to serve a system. Michael Carrick adjusted the system to serve the squad's nature. By simplifying the game, by playing players in their best positions, by adapting tactically to each opponent, Carrick validated Ronaldo's 2021 prediction. That understanding players is just as important as understanding tactics. Ronaldo saw it 5 years ago, and now the entire football world is seeing it too. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think Carrick should be United's permanent manager? Or is this just another temporary fix? And here's the bigger question. Was Ronaldo's 2021 prediction genuine insight or just lucky timing? Drop your answers in the comments right now. Let's debate this properly. If this deep dive changed how you see Carrick in modern management, subscribe to Cyberboot immediately and turn on notifications. Hit that like button if you finally understand why player management matters as much as tactics. Share this with anyone who doubted Carrick could succeed at this level. This is Cyberboot. See you in the next one.